can you use the wind charge to prevent kinetic damage when falling with an elytra? The answer is surprising because it's yes, and here's something else that's interesting that's been discovered. Did you know that when you're crouching, because you're closer to the wind charge, you'll actually go higher in the air? You can combine this with other bonuses, like the one for jumping. Here's me doing a regular jump wind charge, and here's me doing one while crouched, as you can see, just a little bit higher. But if you uncrouch while a wind charge is going up, that energy is added to the total, which means if you do all three together, you can launch yourself this high in the sky. This is ridiculous by itself, but you can also launch yourself off walls repeatedly, which would be crazy enough by itself. But this isn't just for parkour masters, as fun as this is by itself, it's also for redstone users, because as Matthew Tippich2266 says, if these have a predictable firing pattern from the dispenser, I bet you could use this for a very expensive long-range wireless redstone activation system, and as you can see right here, that is entirely possible. This is from my friend Crafty Masterman, and it shows how you can make an incredible door, and even better than the potential this raises is the name that he's decided to give it. Absolutely 10 out of 10, no notes here, but the wind charge really is getting a lot of praise from all sorts of areas of the Minecraft community. It's a fairly small feature, but it's one that really opens up a lot of creativity, as a good Minecraft feature should, and indeed, as Vendetta Killer says here, I really hope this wind charge encourages a new combat update from 1.21, which seems like it's a bit of a stretch, like an item that launches you in the sky into a combat update, but this is showing how people are willing to change their playstyle as long as it looks like fun, and so given the goodwill from this feature, it looks like now would be the ideal time for Mojang to come back to the board with their combat changes. The trial chamber and the new ways you interact with that could also be the perfect time to tell people that yeah, potions should stack now, or all of the other changes they wanted to make in the combat test snapshot. But instead of reiterating those, let's talk about something they definitely are doing with the rest of 1.21. There are new features to be announced, alongside the name by the way, but I want to read this comment from Zakal Pardesen 5715, who says they chose to buff the wolf when it was the wolf armor uselessness and the wolf UI people were complaining about. Just make wolf armor enchantable, it'll fix everything. So wolf armor enchantability is a very good idea, and the good news is that Mojang have specifically said they're working on wolf armor now. The wolf kind of changes were really just some minor tweaks to make them slightly more useful for PvP, but now is the time they're going to try and work out how to make wolves genuinely useful and not a liability, something I think is a good idea, and that is the next major feature that we know is coming to 1.21. After that, everything is a mystery again, which is one of the reasons I think so many people are cautious about 1.21. Unlike with previous updates where you could say, yeah, this update is kind of lacking in size, or updates before that where you knew there was a huge amount of content and even more that was cut behind the curtains. In the case of 1.21, this really could be an update that they've planned around the trial chambers and all of the other features are small bonuses, or there could be something bigger happening behind the scenes right now. We do know the trial chambers are yet to change even more. That is something that has been confirmed. We do know that the wolf armor is going to change, but that's a 1.20.5 feature that'll be coming out before 1.21. But is the update really going to be the trial chambers and not too much else, or is there a whole second side of this update, whether it be combat changes or something else? That is something that we do not know, and it's very bizarre for it to be February, indeed mid-February at this point. We are literally 3 to 4 months away from the release of this, and we can't say with any decent certainty what is inside the update, or honestly what the name is. With a decent name, if the update was called 1.21 the Trial Chambers update, I think people could get aboard of that easily, but with just the vague theme of combat adventurers and tinkering, then it's a little bit harder in my opinion. Speaking of harder, something that is harder for people to understand, like Wiltex, is that escape doesn't pause the game in Bedrock single player. This came from the meme that I posted on the community tab, and indeed, this person here is trying to suggest a pause button for the game in Bedrock, and they're being kicked out of the window because that is something that Bedrock does not have and has not had ever since it combined into one version of the game. And you might be wondering, why is that the case? Why would there be no pause in Bedrock? And it's because Bedrock was basically built from the ground up to be the multiplayer version of Minecraft. It runs on not just phones, not just both operating systems as well as PCs and all of the consoles, etc., but it runs on all of them at the same time. And so as the cross-platform version of the game, it's the way to play Minecraft with friends from another platform, and that means the game is built with multiplayer in mind first to a really alarmingly annoying point. So for example, when you start a brand new world, it is open for all of your friends to join by default. If you want to have a private world, that is a setting you must change. It's not like other games where you have to hit the go multiplayer button. Every world is multiplayer by default, and even weirder than that, they didn't bother even programming in a pause button that would work in a single player world because they were so sure that if you were going to play Bedrock, damn it, you were going to have friends, and so what's the point in getting used to a pause button in single player if it's just not going to work in multiplayer. Minecraft Bedrock is the only version of the game without a functioning pause. In Minecraft Console Edition, the legacy console, you used to be able to pause the game as long as multiplayer was turned off, and in Minecraft Java, well, pause actually works as long as you're single player too. This is a very weird distinction of Minecraft Bedrock, and honestly, it doesn't seem like they have any intention of fixing it. And although I'd love to say, yeah, you've just got to get used to it, like many weird things on Bedrock, expecting a pause button to pause the game is not a wild thing, and when Minecraft added phantoms to the game, they made it even more disastrous. I personally have paused my game, just, absent-mindedly trying to do something, and then come back and phantoms have killed me, and because I haven't been able to respawn, all of my stuff has despawned with it. That has happened in my Let's Play world many years ago, but it's so ridiculously frustrating. It shouldn't happen to a person, and the fact that it can, the fact that it has to me as well as many other people, is one of the reasons why Minecraft should have a big warning somewhere in there. The game is not paused, it is running in the background, or something like that the first time you do it. Speaking of the first time you do it, Mojang has always been very reluctant to mention Notch at all, even though he's the one who made the game, because if you think about the, let's call it the rabbit hole that Notch went down, this is very different to the brand that Mojang tries to foster for Minecraft. Inclusivity and diversity and all of these other buzzwords are very much the opposite of what Notch is perhaps best known for, and so there are many people who say things like the Frosty Chemist who are sorry, but they'd rather not engage with anything that supports Notch. This is why he was removed from the credits, and why the game as a whole will go very far out of their way not to mention how they were founded. It started in 2009, don't ask who made it or why, but the interesting thing about this is this week they put out a video talking about the Ender Dragon, and here's what they said in it.
During that time, Marcus, or Notch, was experimenting with a new world generator style that was kind of like a sky island, and then together with all the adventure style features, Marcus really wanted to make a dragon.
They mentioned Notch, not just once by name, but twice by name, as Marcus the second time, but still, that is incredibly interesting, right? I do believe this is an interesting corner for Mojang to be turning in a weird way, because ultimately, as a company, I think that, or as an individual too, you don't actually, no matter how much you might hate your past, you don't make the past better by not acknowledging it, but instead by saying, yeah, here is a thing that we might disagree with. Trying to change the past by just saying, it never happened and we won't acknowledge that it did, is not how anyone has personal growth. That is something that is hard to come to terms with. It's hard to actually look at your mistakes and acknowledge them as mistakes. It's much easier to brush them over and pretend it didn't happen, but growth as a human being happens when you have honest conversations with yourself, and as a company, it happens when you have honest conversations, presumably with each other. Speaking of having honest conversations, I think that before we leave behind the 1.21 theme and the fact that Mojang seems to be turning a corner about saying, yeah, we are doing lots of things that the community is loving, but at the same time, people clearly are saying these updates are smaller, they're calling us... I feel like Mojang is trying to take from this feedback how they can better announce updates, and ideally how they can better put them together, but something I really want to say is that this last feature, the wind charge from 1.21, has brought so much goodwill from the community. Nappy13 says, this is the first thing in 1.21 that has me excited. Everything else is cool, but it's just not for me. Now they've done it, they know that 1.21 is our last hope. It could be one of the best updates, or the last one that really matters, and now they're listening to the community. It's the best update since 1.17. Ignoring the first half of that comment, the fact that this person went from saying, yeah, this could have been the worst update, the one that ends Minecraft, to actually this is the best one in a while, is a really, really good sign, and it's something that I am very pleased with, personally, because as someone who loves Minecraft, it's been sad to watch the last couple of updates. There was a huge optimism and peaking of people's love and interest, and the updates were getting bigger and bigger and better, and then somewhere around Caves and Cliffs, things started to fall apart. Are we about to see that second peak, or is this the ending of the decline at the very least? I would like to believe that it definitely is. I think that the Tales and Trails was the turning of the corner, and 1.21 is just deciding, is the corner going up or is it going down? If you can continue to use my graph analogy here with me. Speaking of a graph analogy, I would like to move into the last comment today, which is actually from my Why YouTube is Filled with Lies Now video, and this is from Biped Athlete 851, who says, I feel like the issues with modern YouTube is the reason for the explosion in the popularity of streaming, and this is something that happens on a very regular basis. So right now, by the way, people say there's a wave of YouTube retirements. It's not really. If you look at Tom Scott, he's making videos still, he's just not making the one series. If you look at MatPat, he's still making things and he's working on the team as much as he had, but he's not presenting anymore. If you look at Captain Sparkles, he's not actually retiring, he's just saying he will have to retire at some point. Every YouTuber has to come to grips with some point the fact that this is a career in entertainment, and that is one of the hardest jobs to keep, because being entertaining day in and day out is something where you can't have a slightly off day like you can at every other job, and the overall performance balances out. If someone sees a bad video from you today, they're going to think about that for a while and be significantly less likely to click the next, and so on and so forth. Very slight variations in quality can lead to huge doom spirals and the collapse of a channel, and that's ignoring all of the factors outside of your control to do with algorithmic and trends of YouTube and the winds of various games going popular or not. It can be very hard to be a creator if you want to be successful, and so the fact that you know the explosion of streaming as popularity has been going on since I started. When I first had my biggest boom, when I went from being a tiny YouTube channel with 60 subscribers to 1,000, the YouTube channels that were big at the time were all moving over to Twitch because they just decided they couldn't do YouTube anymore with the keeping up with all the trends and all this noise. They'd rather just have a direct content creation to viewers watching it version, and also one where they could actually like kind of talk to fans more directly. That has been happening the entire time I've been on YouTube. I have been approached with numerous streaming contracts over the time that I've been doing this, because streaming is a more time per user, but more, you know, like if you have the number of users already, it is a more profitable metric. However, a more profitable means of you know, doing content creation. However, I do feel, and as someone who does a lot of streaming myself, I do feel sometimes I'm just like, man, why do I make videos? Why do I, you know, spend hours looking through all of these comments or all of these, you know, like why do I do all of this research when ultimately people might be happy with just a 3-hour unscripted version of that where I'm, you know, hanging out and doing it kind of live, more conversationally. And even though I sometimes have that thought, I do realize that I really do love what I do here on YouTube. I, you know, even if like things get harder and, you know, more resources and editing is required, I still think that it is worth trying that. Even if it means we have to get sponsorships, or we have to, in the absence of it, because that's what I try to do on this channel, I have to be basically self-sponsored and say, hey, if you like these videos and you're liking the extra value and production that goes into them, consider becoming a channel member. We are just about to reach 500 of them, and that is one of the most important things as a creator, having a stable monthly income. Thank you to all of the members. You can now use the desert well emoji and all of the other fun benefits of it, like watching Toycat Babe and Iron Brew. Even if it means having to go through these things, I believe in video creation as a platform, because I think that in my darkest times as a YouTube viewer, the fact that there were YouTubers that I watched that were there for me was something I always appreciated, and I always want to be there, even if it's just for 1 or 5 people that have that exact same situation. I guess 5 or 1, I got the order wrong in that. But even if it's just for the few people who are going to get something from it, I want to be there for that group of people, and if you learn something new about Minecraft along the way, that would be even better. And I hope that you've learned something new about Minecraft from this video. If you haven't, fun fact, there are lots of ways the wind charge can be used. It makes people question whether the fire charge should be thrown, but the more important thing than all of that is that 1.21 is where Minecraft updates are coming out of their little funk, I believe, and I'm making the prediction right now, right here, that this is Mojang's learning from their mistakes. Something I've been thinking about a lot is the mistakes of the past, and how every time Mojang is you know, correcting or finding a mistake and correcting it, they're having a new one pop up. And but yeah, I'll have to talk about that some other time, because for now I am excited about how 1.21 is going. I'm excited about the wind charge, and I'm excited about making videos even after having done this full time for over 10 years now, because I have enjoyed spending all of this time with you. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in 10 years, wherever that may be. Goodbye. Oh, you ever seen this before? The game is paused, but the fire is still going. Like, it's not actually doing anything, but the animation is moving. The particles don't, but the fire does. What the heck is this wizardry?